Welcome in, fantasy superstars. We've got the Melbourne Storm today, and we're with Corey, who is part of the private group, and he came 474th last year, so he beat me as well. I'll just keep bringing on all the guns that scored better than me. But thanks for jumping on, Corey, and you're a Storm fan yourself, and keen to go through their fantasy prospects with you, mate.
Yeah, beauty, JB. Thanks for having us, mate. Appreciate it.
Easy as, mate. This is your spreadsheet. So thanks for putting that together, and you've got some different highlights there, mate. And talk us through the blue and then the whatever color it is. I'm colorblind, yellowy, whatever that is.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mustard color. But I'm not an Excel spreadsheet nerd, so I sort of just stuck with the basic colors. But I've just put my gun picks in the blue there, and my mustard colors are just potential good mid range picks, depending on how everything shapes out. And then down the bottom, I've just got the green there with the two guys that I think are going to be sort of first off the bat to jump in if anything goes wrong in Sua and Pezzett. And then Nels is obviously still on his suspension. So when he returns, that'll probably shake things up in the forward pack as well.
Definitely, mate. There was a little bit to happen in the off season. There's not too much movement for this year apart from big Stefano coming over. But what are your thoughts on the Pap and the Sua situation?
Yeah, honestly I don't know. There was like you said in the off season there was a lot of talk about Pat potentially leaving. They obviously got that contract over the line, but having someone as sort of electric as Sua sitting there on the in the backdrop waiting for an opportunity. I don't know if they're sort of doing that to keep Pat working hard, or I don't know what the play is there. He's obviously a pretty good dude to just have sitting there in case Pap does get injured again, that's for sure. And we've seen what he did in 24, so I'm pretty stoked he's sitting there.
Yeah, and might be some type of clause in Sua's contract if if
I'd say
he can.
100%. Like
Yeah.
noting how well he played in 24, I think they'd have to be. I think there's a few guys that would probably have clauses in their contracts. In Pezzett, maybe even. I don't think Wish signed on for too long either. Sorry, I wrote it down here how long he'd signed on for, but I think he's only signed on for a couple more years.
Yeah.
So yeah, there might even be a clause there as well. But yeah, there's definitely a few guys that I think would have that in their contracts for sure.
Yeah, it's very interesting, mate. And Stefano comes over 50 minutes a game last year, averaging 45. How do you see it
Yeah.
changing at the Storm? We know that a lot of players come over and they just go to another level. Do we see that with
Mate,
Stefano?
I'm hoping he's another Ali, mate. I'm
Yeah.
hoping he's another Ali Katoa. Like we've seen how Ali played with the Wires, and then when he arrived at Melbourne, he's just I locked and loaded him last night, mate. Sorry, last year as a freak. So I'm hoping I can essentially do the same thing with Stefano and just lock and load him and leave him there. But yeah, we'll just have to see what happens. See if he
Yeah.
can
Might be a
see if
thing
he
in
can do it.
in preseason. You might probably like we'd imagine they won't play too many minutes, but like if the intensity's there and it could be enough just to start with him because God, there were so many games last year he picked up sort of 20 odd points, didn't he? And you just couldn't
Yeah.
imagine that intensity being allowed at the Storm. So starting with him at a 45 average, you'd expect similar minutes. So you'd have to expect that PPM does bump up, and at worst he probably hits that same average across like the first month or something.
Yeah, that's my thoughts, mate. I think at worst, so we've seen like I remember when they interviewed Sean Blore when he came over and he said it was the hardest preseason he's ever done, and Melbourne are pretty notorious for their preseason. So I think the same thing's going to happen with Stefano. He'll come over and they'll pump him through the preseason, and I think I'm hoping he comes out firing. And like I said, I'm hoping he's somewhere, maybe not the first year at the club, but I'm hoping, stranger things have happened. Comes out like Ali and just blinds it all year, but. It could be more like a Sean Blore situation where he sort of finds his feet in 25 and then 26 he comes out and has a great year. And maybe even this year's Blore's year. Maybe he has a blinder this year, who knows?
I was going to ask you about him. I owned him for a lot of last year, picked up that couple of good scores, and then he just sort of petered out and obviously wasn't playing the full 80 minutes, somewhere around that
Yeah.
70 odd for the most part. But yeah, do you think he has a bit of a breakout chance?
I think there's every chance. There's so many guys in this team that that I think the possibilities there, but I just don't know. I honestly don't know who. I'm hoping it's Stefano just because we know how damaging he can be when he puts it together. But I mean, yeah, having said that, Blore's the exact same, really, isn't he? So, um, yeah, I'm hoping Blore has a better year, and I'm hoping Stefano brains it. But we'll just have to see what happens. I don't know.
Hmm. Stefano
Yeah.
probably feels like more chance of coming in and doing it straight away for me. With Blore, he was so stop start with injury, and
Yep.
even even with the Tigers, he'd have one game where he'd get the full 80, and the next one he'd be down at 30 minutes off the bench. It just changed so much. Whereas Stefano was pretty consistent with minutes, so that part will be interesting. But mate, the big thing that we're talking here and all that's going through my head is round two bye. How do we
Yeah, I
navigate
know,
that?
right? Yeah, I know. I know. Yeah, like it's just going to be, like we discussed, it'll be dependent on guys' salary caps. That's why I think potentially the mid-range guys that I've highlighted are probably going to be more of an option for blokes rather than the guns because I don't think anyone can put that sort of cash on the sideline to start the year. I think it's going to have to be yeah, sadly I think it'll have to be an avoid unless you're picking up yeah, one of the mid ranges if it suits, or like a couple of the guys have got jewels. So yeah, I think it's a tough one. Round two bye.
Yeah, it probably feels like a to me like a pick one scenario maybe. Like you've got Pap there who we haven't really mentioned too much yet. He came in with just a tick under a 40 average. And yeah, we began the year with him last year only a little bit under that, and that sort of early 500s $1,000 mark, which will be where he's at, closer to 550 there, if the
Yep.
game comes in the same. Howarth is someone I'm pretty interested in as well, but I do feel it might be tough. Like if you're looking at Pap and Howarth, or a Howarth and a Utakamanu, though that center position or that fullback position with Paps, it's hard to you kind of want that first few weeks to be pretty locked and loaded with those
Yep.
positions because they're hard to fill with solid players, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose the only thing is like if they do if one of them does just come in and brain it, then it's just going to have to be a pivot, isn't it? Like if you've
Mm.
decided not to go with any of the Storm guys because of the bye, then it'll just be a pivot move. Or if you have started with them and it's fitted your salary cap, then you're laughing because you get a good round one, have the bye, get one of the buys out of the way for one of your players, and then, they just brain it for the rest of the rounds leading up to Magic round, and you're gonna make a decision then what you do.
Mm. Yeah, I think either way feels pretty safe. Like round one, if you get that somewhat correct, if you're pretty confident with that guy, hopefully they score fairly well that first round, and then people want to use that trade to get him in round three or four.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas you
Yeah.
also get the round two buy, which you can loop as well, which is something that is very important, mate. And have you had heaps of circumstances where you've had good loop players across your last few years?
Trying to think, I did a lot better with my looping year gone. So 24, I think you had to if you weren't all over your looping in 24, I don't if you weren't cracking the top 1,000, like I think the looping was essential, and we sent like the injuries was just ridiculous.
Yep.
So I think yeah, if you like absolutely, you need to have players that you can loop. Um, Start of the year, yeah, I think. I mean, like, what do you think? I think the start of the year's got a lot to do with luck too, because you just never know what's going to like. Look at what happened at the start of the year for most of the guys that we're used to playing with that are very, very good.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, 30, 40, 50,000, after the first couple of weeks, just because everything just went tits up, really.
Yeah, our last few years have been that way. Like Mitch came on yesterday, and he came 21st, and he said he was 78,000 after round one. So
There you go.
that's
Yeah.
where like just waiting on these guys works really well. But yeah, again, if you're pretty confident on one of them, then that could be a good play as well. It might set you apart because most people might wait as well. So it's a pretty interesting teammate for sure. When you haven't even got Blore highlighted, and that's seven guys in there that could potentially be a good spot. And then we've got Cam Munster as well. 44 average last year. So
Yep.
many injuries, mate. What are your thoughts on him being a fan?
Yeah, that's so him and him. It was hard for me to even, to be honest, it was hard for me to even put Pap as my mid-range choice because, again, what he can do and he can be so explosive, but he's just been so riddled with injuries. I just couldn't, you know, it was really hard for me to say he'd be one of my mid-range picks. And noting that, noting Sua's on the bench. yeah, I just yeah, I'm hoping that like I think I wrote in there that he and Jerome both have to have a pretty consistent year for Storm to do some damage in the finals because like Jerome saved the year really for
Oh,
Melbourne.
it was incredible.
He was just ridiculous. But he scores. I think he scores four points average better when Munster's on the field, and it just gives him so many more options being able to play both sides, but the two of them together playing both sides of the field. But you know, Munster and Pap just absolutely riddled with injury. So it was just lucky, like you said, we got Wishart, we got guys in Peasant and that guys that can jump in. But yeah, it's I just hope they stay fit. I just hope they stay healthy and we can get us like a half solid year out of all the boys. But we just have to wait and see, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. And you could kind of see it in that final series. Pap had played a bunch of games in a row, and he started to get better and back to some of his best work again, which was
Yep.
awesome to see.
Yep.
Um, yeah, it'd be very interesting to see how they play out. That's for sure. Harry Grant,
Yeah.
mate, he didn't play his best last year, in my opinion. He
Ah,
really looked like he came into his own in the last few games and into the finals. He was incredible.
yep.
Do we see him as undervalued to start the year, even with that round two bye, with probably a couple of cheaper hookers that we could plug and play in round two? Could you start with Grant and just kind of lock and load him all the way through until that origin period?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I think it's the same, like him, Robson, your standard sort of two, three hookers. I don't see any issue starting with him. It's just that money sitting on the bench. If you can afford it and it works with your salary cap, get the buy out of the way early, and then you can run him all the way through to Magic Round. Um, yeah, I see him having a much better year this year. I think he started really average in 24, and I think a lot of coaches got stitched up with him. But I see him having a much better year this year. And like I wrote in there as well, I think Munster and Jerome all need to have a really good year. That spine needs to be firing 100% to have the run that they need to get back into the finals and cause some damage in the finals. So, and he's the skipper now, so he needs to hold it down.
Yeah, it's a team that now they've got back to that grand final, and then they know what they have to beat, and they play pretty well. Panthers
Yeah.
just they're slightly better. I think that you'll see a lot of these guys beating our teams at some point of the year, whether that is in like around 3, 4, 5 kind of range, and if they're playing really well and flying, because there are guys here like Grant who's already priced at 54, like Hughes at 60. Like if Hughes has a slightly slower start and then gets back into his work, you could get him at a 55, and he's
That's
that
right.
consistent guy through Origin period again. So I can see Stefano in our teams. I could see Howarth from round one. What do you
Yep.
see with him, mate? Because he's someone that I'm interested in personally. A 32 average last year. Do you
Yeah.
see him going to the next level? Because I think he improved mightily at the back end of the year too.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. That's like hence why I put him as one of the good mid-range picks. I think what did I put in there that he's potentially 10 points of value. Or he's definitely got room to move. Like price at 33. Like yeah, I don't see any issues like plugging and playing him from the get-go. Again, it's just going to depend on salary cap. Um, I'm not sure what he's priced at.
Yeah, be in like the 400s, that 450 or something like that. It should be around if it's a similar salary
Yeah.
cap.
Yep.
Um, but he was like a mid 40s guy or close to it in that
Yep.
back end, and there's no reason why he can't be in that. That's probably just a tier under like the Gaggais and stuff. But you don't need him to be that level yet, do you? You just need him to
Nah,
be a top 15 center, and
that's
that's
right.
that's
And
great.
and he's got the jewel too. So like that,
I
when you're
wonder if he'll
talking
keep
about
it. I wonder if he'll keep it. He
yeah,
probably
yeah,
should.
I don't know. Yeah, that'd be great if he did. Um,
Yeah.
especially if he, yeah, like I said, especially if he hits that 10 points of value, that'd be great. Just to have somebody like that that you can have on the bench.
And that's you see year to year, don't you, that these guys like he didn't get as much of a run as the Ewan Akins and Jack Birds and these guys that kind of got the full seasons. Galvin got that full season. So he comes in with a bit of experience and something to build off for a guy that's been highly touted, like all those guys were. they
Yep.
do. They come out and they hit that 40 plus, don't they? So yeah,
Yep.
he's got that room, which is going to be good fun.
Yep. Absolutely.
We've almost covered all the players, mate. That's for sure. But I don't think there's too much value elsewhere. Josh King will do his thing. Coates,
Yeah.
Meany, Warbrick, all about the
Yeah.
same, mates.
They're all just workhorses, eh? They just get in and get the work done, but
That's right.
not,
Make
not overly fantasy relevant.
that's right. Make all the pretty fancy players look great.
Yeah, that's it.
That's for
That's it.
sure.
Yeah.
Anything else on the Storm to finish off, mate?
What about I actually wanted to ask you, JB, what do you think about Joe Chan this year?
Joey.
Yeah.
It's a good question,
Think he's
eh?
on the spot. Do you think he's gonna find his way back in and actually do something this year?
They kind
I think
of
a lot of guys had him last year as well, didn't they?
Yeah, I think I ended up starting with him as well, but he kind of ended up
Yep.
moving into more of a middle role, didn't he, in the back end,
Yep.
playing a bit through there and a
Use
little
him
bit
off the
for
bench to rest the forwards a bit, I think.
yeah, and then a little bit for Blore. Hey, cover that 10
Yep.
minutes or so.
Yep.
I can't see much changing with him. Do you see a lot of improvement out of him?
I honestly don't know. He's one that I really don't know. I expected more from him last year, but yeah, I don't know if he's going to improve greatly. Like he's obviously they've got him. I mean, at this stage anyway, they've got him not in the the starting 17. So, but I mean, neither's Peasant, neither's Sua. So there's like I said, there's so much talent waiting there to get on the field. It could be anyone.
Yeah, just be an injury thing again. Like
Yeah.
if you lost an Ellie or a Blore, then he's probably yeah, it helps. He's got that year under his belt and he can come in and play because there wouldn't be too much else. Hey, you got Lazarus who came on and did a great job on the bench too.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say.
Nelson's out.
He was actually probably a better performer for the short amount of time that he played,
Mm.
uh, via Lepu. So, I mean, they could even run him.
But yeah, it does
But
just seem like Chan will be that cover for the edge because there's not too much there, unless again Nelson plays there like he has at times the last few years. So that's
yeah,
probably the main worry on that front. But the top 17 looks pretty settled, which I think is good when there are a few guys that have some potential value there as well. And good to see after the last few teams we've gone through, there's probably been like one or two guys that you could look at. Whereas the Storm, you could go a multitude of different ways. Like I'm potentially looking if I went with Howarth as my only Storm player, then yeah, it's not too much cash. He could be a looper in round two. That works. You could go with a Stefano straight up. You could go with two of the three. You could go with Pap just like by himself. He'll be pretty highly owned, I'd imagine, just on name value and potential.
yeah,
People might start with Hughes. Like if Cleary's not ready to go, then there's Hughes. You could start with Ellie like you did last year. You had him for most of the year.
yeah, yeah.
That's
He
just
was
a top
excellent.
gun. And same with
Yeah,
Grant. Like he's got 60 average pedigree as well. So there's so many different ways to go about it. And I'm super interested to see how it all plays out. And we've obviously got so much preseason to go as well for injuries and everything else. But they're going to be another fun team to watch in general. Like watching the Storm is I love it. So if you do own a couple of plays in there, it was good fun owning Hughes for and Wishart and these guys for a lot of last year. It's great fun.
yeah. Well, I mean, you're a Magic Round fan, a fanatic like I am as well, and I love going down there and having a couple of fantasy players from your team that you can sort of watch, while you're down there actually watching the games. I think that's really cool too. So. Yeah, it was good actually being able to have Grant and Ali and Hughes and like I think I had more players last year from Storm than I ever have playing the game. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was really good. Loved it.
It could end up being the same, for sure. This year,
Yeah.
which especially once that buy goes through, it might be like, one per team, and then it'll be three or four come around 4 or 5 for sure, depending on how things go. So
Yeah.
thanks so much, Corey, for jumping
Oh, no
on
drama.
the channel, mate. And we will be seeing plenty more of you throughout the year. And guys, you've seen Mitch, you've seen Scoop, you've seen Corey now. So we've got a few guys that are going to be helping out on the channel this year just to relieve me from a couple of videos, but it'll allow us to
Give
get
you
a
a
few more.
break, mate. Give you a bit of a break.
Well, I'm going to look after the private group a little bit more as well. So allow me to step into that now that the numbers are getting up. So that's that. A big thank you for you to being part of that as well, and helping guys out in the group chat as well. That's a big part of it all is you guys chatting and helping each other out and just enjoying the game day chat and reacting and crying and celebrating when things go well and
It's
bad.
some
So
good banner in there too. Like if you haven't done it, it's worthwhile doing it. just for that. Like there's real good chats in there, and it's gone all year. Like we had it going all through Christmas, all through, and then it shifts. If you watch a bit of cricket, okay, it rolls into a bit of everything. So it's good banner, if nothing else. So yeah, get
Yeah,
involved for sure.
good stuff. Thanks, Corey. All the details for that are in the description, or send me a DM, guys, if you aren't sure on anything. And cheers, Corey. We'll catch you in one of the next videos you pop up with.
Awesome, mate. Thanks very much.